with China continuing its foray into the Indian waters, Times now has got access to the Task Force Action Plan to try and cover Andaman and Nicobar Tri-Services Command into a major amphibious warfare hub.
Despite the public handshakes and the pleasantries, China has constantly been bolstering its defences in India's backyard. A Chinese surveillance post just 40 kilometers away from the northernmost tip of the Andaman Islands. The office of the Chinese Navy located in the Coco Islands of Myanmar. Intended to keep a strategic eye on India's military. A post too close for India's comfort. It's not just the port in Myanmar. This port in Sri Lanka that China claims is a commercial venture has been a cause of concern for India in the past.
Modernization of armed forces in China is a matter of concern at the same time.
New Delhi may not openly acknowledge the threat, but the armed forces have realized that it's the Andaman Islands that holds the key to counter the Chinese dragon.
The relationship between India and China is one which raises many questions. Economically speaking, they're both partners and competitors. Militarily speaking, however, it's less clear.
It seems India's not taking any chances, sending out a clear message to China by enhancing maritime surveillance, developing additional airfields, and developing the area to make it capable of operating long-range maritime aircrafts. In fact, top defense sources have told Times now that it's China's focus on dominating world energy that has India gearing up to counter the Chinese aggression. The army plans to send additional brigades to the Andamans. The Navy planning to hike up the number of warships and construct more airports, while the Indian Air Force and the DRDO are planning for more UAV presence to enhance underwater surveillance. India's Special Task Force strategizing plans to fortify the Andaman Islands to counter the Chinese aggression. Bureau Report, Times Now.
Srinjoy Chaudhary, our senior editor, is reporting on the story and joining us live this morning. Srinjoy, India, they're sending a very strong message to China.
Yes, absolutely. This is not just a message to China. It is primarily, of course, it is also a way of strengthening India's Andaman areas to face any challenge. Now, this is the document that we were looking at. This comes from the National Council Secretariat, the NSC, and it's very clear that all parts of the Indian government, all parts of the Indian security establishment, whether it's the MEA, whether it's the MOD, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the National Security Council, the intelligence agencies, and also the DRDO, all of them are involved in now ensuring that the Andaman and Nicobar Islands becomes a military stronghold. I mean, this is a huge plan which is being developed. Of course, there are economic aspects to it, commercial aspects to it, but overall, if you see this document, it's very clear that all the things that you were talking about, more planes, more UAVs, underwater surveillance capabilities, more troops in the 13th plan of the defense plan for the army. The Air Force here has made it very clear that it wants more assets in the Andamans. Very, very clearly, the plan to strengthen the Andamans has really begun. This meeting was chaired by the Deputy NSC, Lata Reddy, on the 3rd of May, and all agencies, whether it's the intelligence, whether it's the armed forces, whether it's the MEA, all of them attended, and all of them appear to be in one mind that the Andamans have to be strengthened.
Right, now can you tell us a little bit about the kind of investment in this particular project, the kind of time frame before India can successfully build up its defenses along the Andaman and Nicobar Island?
Well, very clearly, this was the first meeting, and it's going to take a long time because all these things that are being talked of will finally get done. Now, let me tell you what are the things that will have to be done. Maritime surveillance capabilities will have to be improved. Additional aircraft, additional airfields, underwater surveillance capabilities, further development of Port Blair. These are all things that the Navy alone will do. Besides that, of course, there is the Army, which is looking at an additional brigade in the future. The Air Force, even here, has made it very clear that they want additional assets in the Andamans. Then, of course, right here it says very clearly, in exploiting the strategic location of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Now, all this will take about 5 to 10 years, perhaps more, to be absolutely complete. But what is the reason for doing it? Well, China has already been spoken about. The one point that is very important here is that China gets 50 to 60% of its oil through the Indian Ocean from the Gulf. Now, if you have very strong forces there, as far as India is concerned, in case of any kind of problem in the future, it will be a deterrent. Also, a lot of China's production, its manufacturing production, will eventually head for the Gulf and for Africa, which is going to be a new market in the future. Now, even here, once again, India will be there, India's troops will be there, India's assets militarily, of course, will be there. In case of any problem, India's assets, military assets that is, will be a deterrent in case of any problems in the future.